Welcome back to the program. Big news today. Lots of different things happening. We're going to go through quite a bit of it. We're going to give you 3 segments today. The last segment is going to be an absolutely mesmerizing, sadistic, evil look at not just Jeffrey Epstein, but some of the evil things that were going on at the Zorro Ranch. This will blow your mind, okay? We're also going to talk about now how AI has reached the point of self-awareness. And there's a pretty dangerous story that has come out from that as well. But first, let's get into what we're going to talk about. First and foremost, the good news. The good news is, as I predicted would happen, the Supreme Court in Virginia has said, sorry, even this and what you guys did in Virginia is too insane, too illegal, and too unconstitutional. So they denied the Democrat Attorney General Jones, who, by the way, like I've said before, gets off on dreaming about and fantasizing about killing Republicans. They shot him down. I attacked him on X and told him he's going down hard, and I was correct. And so now what happens? Well, the appeals process is probably going to continue, and eventually, like I said, it's going to be going to the Supreme Court. But have no fear, this is not going to stick anytime soon, because it is so unconstitutional and so illegal. But we'll leave that for another day. Now, a couple of big indictments happened today. Now, let's go through the first one. James Comey was re-indicted. Now, you may remember I said it months ago when they tried to indict him once before, and then it was thrown out on a technicality because of Lindsay Halligan or whatever not being appointed correctly, some bullshit like that. And everyone was like, oh, look, we can't get past these judges. Well, the bottom line is, back then I said, don't worry, he's going to be indicted again in the future. And I was correct. Now, I didn't expect him to be indicted, quite frankly, on what he's being indicted on today. And quite frankly, I don't think he's going to be convicted on it, because I always tell the truth to the audience. Arrest warrant issued for James Comey, and it's 2 felony counts. An arrest warrant was issued for former FBI Director James Comey after he was indicted once again by a grand jury in the Eastern District of North Carolina related to his Trump assassination post on Instagram. The U.S. Marshals were asked to provide Comey with the indictment, and they issued an arrest warrant. Comey is facing up to 20 years in prison. And then it says, count 1, knowingly and willfully to making a threat to take the life of and to inflict bodily harm upon the President of the United States. Count 2, knowingly and willfully transmitting in interstate and foreign commerce a communication that contained a threat to kill President Donald J. Trump. Last May, James Comey called for President Trump to be killed in a cryptic Instagram post. Cool shell formation on my beach walk, Comey said in his caption, which of course was what? 8647. We remember what that was all about. He then says, oh, I didn't know what it meant. Please, anybody, you don't even have to be in law enforcement. Everybody knows what that means. 47th president, 86 is kill. Pretty simple stuff. Comey deleted the Instagram post, threw his wife under the bus during the appearance on left-wing media outlets. Comey previously peddled a bullshit story explaining how he just stumbled upon it. Yes, he just stumbled upon 8647. Like everybody in the world is just making seashells into those numbers. And it's just unbelievable that some people on the left even buy that. Upon a curious formation of shells as he was walking down the beach with his wife. Well, I guess thankfully he was walking down the beach in North Carolina, which is, I guess a maroon state. I wouldn't call it a red state. It wouldn't really be a blue state, but it's kind of purplish red. So maybe he could be convicted, but I doubt it. Walking down the beach, we went to the beach to prepare for this week. We were walking back towards the road, And we saw in the sand someone had arranged shells with numbers. And Patrice, my wife, said, why would someone put an address in the sand? Really? No one's going to think it's an address. Oh my goodness. I don't know, he said. And we stood over it and said, I think it's some kind of political message. Oh, really, Comey? Just a hunch, huh? Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, FBI Director Kash Patel, U.S. Attorney Ellis Boyle delivered remarks on the 2-count indictment returned by the grand jury in the Eastern District of North Carolina. Blanche made it clear you are not allowed to threaten the President of the United States of America. Now, let's talk about this one. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but this is not, in my opinion, the indictments that are going to take down James Comey. I think you're looking at future indictments again for the criminal conspiracy in Florida. I think that those cases would be a lot more solid than this one. Unless there's video, unless there's ring cameras, unless there's beach video, unless there's something that can show that James Comey was sitting on the beach and putting these shells in this order, it's going to be a hard one to prove in court, because it's a freedom of speech thing. And granted, you can't threaten people. That's not freedom of speech. So, let me clarify that. But if he just saw it and you can't prove that he actually put those shells together, this is going to be a tall order for the prosecution, in my opinion. And look, I'm not a lawyer. I don't have any legal background or experience at all. I'm just going by what I think here. Unless they have something else, I don't see this really going much further. Now, granted, there was a grand jury, and again, I could be wrong here, but I think that the burden of proof is going to be really, really tall for the prosecution. So that's just my thoughts on that one. Next. So this one's very interesting. And I'm sure Ilhan Noor Saeed Elmi is probably freaking out right about now, because I'm telling you right now, she's going to go down at some point and she's going to get embroiled in what's going on in Somalia. So FBI has raided 22 Minnesota child care centers and businesses, including, of course, the infamous Quality Leering Center, as part of their fraud investigations linked to the Somali sewer rats and all the fraud. The targets included multiple child care centers and other businesses, most reportedly tied to the Somali community, as part of the ongoing investigation into social services and fraud that has allegedly, no, not allegedly, it's done. They have committed this fraud. Cost American taxpayers hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. A Justice Department spokesperson confirmed the operation in a statement to NBC News. Today, the FBI, with federal, state, and local law enforcement, is involved in court-authorized law enforcement activity as part of an ongoing fraud investigation. No further comments. The raids were not related to immigration enforcement, officials stressed repeatedly. Instead, they focused on alleged, again, it's not alleged, fraud in programs such as child care assistance, Medicaid-funded services, including autism support, and pandemic-era initiatives. One high-profile location hit was, of course, the Quality Leering Center in Minneapolis, a daycare that gained national attention after a viral video by conservative YouTuber Nick Shirley showed that no children were present despite receiving millions of dollars in public funds. The center was later reported to be closed. Minnesota has been the center of repeated large-scale fraud schemes involving federally funded social services. The Feeding Our Future case alone involved over $250 million in fraudulent claims, and that was for the Meals on Wheels that were never served. The Department of Justice charged 47 defendants in that scheme in 2022, with dozens pleading guilty and additional convictions continuing to be secured. Separate investigations have targeted fake autism centers, of course, and services that allegedly defrauded taxpayers of $14 million or more, with multiple defendants indicted since September and at least one guilty plea. The Trump administration has estimated total fraud losses in Minnesota and social services programs up to $19 billion. I believe it's going to be a hell of a lot higher than that. The raids come just months after President Donald Trump declared a war on fraud and appointed Vice President J.D. Vance to lead a dedicated task force to root out waste in federal programs. Vance commented on the raids on a post on X, quote, "The task force and the Department of Justice will be relentless in exposing these fraudsters wherever they may be hiding," Vance wrote. And so this is great. As I said before, there are 8,000 active fraud investigations throughout the country. 8,000. That's no small amount. Now, the next one I want to get to is this. So, before I get to this, I'm going to read you something, okay? Chapter 7, page 91, Lab Leak or Wet Market, the origins of COVID-19 from, Preserving Liberty, Bold and Brave Solutions to Save America and Create Permanent Freedom. In a massive treasure trove of 3,234 emails, many of which were redacted, from January 20th to March 20th, Christian G. Anderson from the Scripps Research Institute sent an email to Dr. Fauci in which he admits, quote, "The genome sequences of the virus and its features look to be engineered." But wait a minute, I thought it was a wet market. I thought it was a pangolin. No, it was not. The facade around Dr. Fauci started to unravel after these emails were released. These emails show the lengths to which Dr. Fauci, his organizations, the scientific community, and many others were willing to go in order to protect one another. In fact, federal records and emails released by the House Oversight Committee reveal that one of Dr. Fauci's top lieutenants and advisors even admitted that he used his personal email address to converse with his colleagues and his boss in order to circumvent any future Freedom of Information Act requests. Dr. David Morens, who has served with Dr. Fauci for over 25 years at the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, wrote in an email released by the House Oversight Committee, quote, "As you know, I try to always communicate on my Gmail account, as my National Institute of Health account email address is being constantly FOIA'd, Freedom of Information Act requested." This is not only, and this is what I said in the book, this is not only an incriminating statement and reference towards hiding information from the public record, but he even goes on to admit that, quote, "I will delete anything I do not want to see show up in the New York Times," end quote. Perhaps, and this is me again, perhaps Dr. Morens is hiding something so dangerous and possibly illegal that he knows if it ever came to fruition, it would likely put him in legal jeopardy. These records can be subpoenaed by Congress, and I hope one day they will. So why did I read that? Well, I think it's pretty simple. Top advisor to wicked Dr. Anthony Fauci indicted today on several charges by the Department of Justice. One of the top cronies of one of the most destructive political figures in recent memory has been indicted by President Trump's Department of Justice. As the New York Post reported, 78-year-old David Morens, a former senior advisor to Dr. Anthony Fauci, was charged with several crimes, including conspiracy against the United States, destruction, alteration, or falsification of records in federal investigations, concealment, I'm going to use my Gmail account so I don't get FOIA'd, concealment, removal, or mutilation of records, and aiding and abetting. Now, these charges will stick. The Post also notes that the indictment, which was unsealed on Monday in Maryland's federal court, also lists two unnamed co-conspirators who, quote, concealed, removed, destroyed, and caused the concealment removal of federal records to evade Freedom of Information Act requests and the federal records requests. Morins, who served as senior advisor to Dr. Fauci from 2006 to 2022, conducted official government business from a private email account and asked the National Institute of Health and FOIA liaison for tips on how to evade records requests, according to communications first exposed by the Post in May of 2024 that were also, the emails were in Preserving Liberty. Quote, there is no worry about FOIAs. I can either send stuff to Tony, Fauci, on his private Gmail account, or I can hand it to him at work, or even go to his house, Morins wrote in an April 21st, 2021 email. He is too smart to let colleagues send him stuff that could cause trouble. 2 months prior, Morins said in a February 24th email, I learned from our FOIA lady how to make emails disappear after I am FOIA'd, but before the search would even start. Plus, I deleted most of those earlier emails after sending them to my Gmail. The Post goes on to reveal that Morins wrote that he always used Gmail because his NIH email was being FOIA'd constantly, and he wanted to ensure that none of his emails reached the New York Times. Exactly what I put in the book. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche released the following statement. These allegations represent a profound abuse of trust at a time when the American people needed it most during the height of the global plandemic, I'll say, instead of pandemic. As alleged in the indictment, Dr. Morins and his co-conspirators deliberately concealed information and falsified records in an effort to suppress alternative theories regarding the origins of COVID-19. Government officials have a solemn duty to provide honest, well-grounded facts and advice in service of the public's best interest, not to advance their own personal or ideological agendas. Morins also oversaw the infamous EcoHealth Alliance, which was exposed by animal welfare watchdog group White Coat Waste Project for handling millions of American taxpayer dollars to the infamous Wuhan Institute of Virology for, of course, gain-of-function research on dangerous coronaviruses. Millions of people around the world have since perished thanks to this leak. Again, engineered in a lab. Okay? So a lot of people are now saying this. Well, if you're going to indict the guy underneath Fauci, let's go and get Fauci. Well, there's a problem with that. And here's the problem. The problem is that on the way out, the auto pen gave him a preemptive pardon. And because it hasn't been challenged to the Supreme Court, or any court for that matter, sadly, he's untouchable. And that's a problem. And it's a problem for a lot of reasons, but it's also a problem for good reasons. And let me explain why. And I already did probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, so you'll probably remember as I'm talking about this. President Trump and his administration, as I said before, are not going to challenge preemptive pardoning. It's not going to happen. And for good reason. Because President Trump has already said and signaled that on the way out in 2028, he's going to blanket pardon, preemptive pardon his entire cabinet. Why? Well, because they've already made it known that they're going to try to put everybody in his cabinet in prison. So, is it good? Is it bad? I don't know. It's a hard one to say. Do we want to see Fauci in jail? Of course. I had a t-shirt that said arrest Dr. Fauci. I mean, yes, I would love to see him in jail. But if he's been pardoned for all of these crimes, I don't know how it happens. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't take down all the people underneath him, because that's certainly a possibility. But as far as Dr. Fauci himself, sorry, folks, not going to happen. Not going to happen because this administration doesn't want every single person that has worked for this administration to end up in prison, and they're going to do a preemptive pardon at the end. It sucks. It's politics. It's just the way it is. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Put them down in the comments below. We'll see you in the next one.